Hi everyone. Today we are going to see how we can configure an iSCSI block share using TrueNAS or FreeNAS for your VMware or iSCSI or vsphere environment. So as you can see that right now I'm running TrueNAS core. The latest version is 13.0 update 3.1. This LUNs has 8 gigabytes of memory, and the IP address for this is 10.1.1.16 bit 24-bit subnet mask. So in order to create a block share, we need to first check if we have a pool defined. So we need to click on storage and go to pools. We see that currently there is no pools defined. In order to define a pool, we need to check how many disks we have to satisfy the pool's requirement. We click on disk. As we can see, we have around 10 disk in this in a TrueNAS device, and the disk that has the 50 gigabytes of size with the pool name as boot-pool is one that has the TrueNAS operating system installed. So this is something that we cannot make a part of the pool. However, we can utilize the rest of the disk that we have. So in order to create the pool, we click on pool again. We'll click on add pool. And once we click on add pool, we're presented with this screen wherein we are supposed to create a new pool, create new pool. Once we create a new pool, we're given a choice to give it a name. So I'm going to give it a name like iSCSI share. Once we give it a name, we need to come and check. As we can see right now, there is no disk visible because I'm running this TrueNAS in VMware workstation, and all the disks have the non-unique serial number. That's what this warning specifies. But if I need to see all the disks that I have attached to this particular VM, I can click on show disk with non-unique serial, and I can see all the disks that are attached to this VMware workstation machine. So we can select the devices, we can select the disk that we need to be part of this data vdevs. We, so I'm going to select 5 devices, disk 1 to 5. Once I make my selection, I need to click on this right arrow and to add it to the data vdevs. Once we add to the data vdevs, we are presented with the choice. The default layout for the current selection of the disk number of disks that I have is RAID z.2. That is suggested by TrueNAS, but in order to create a data store for VMware vSphere, we need to make our selection between either stripe or mirror. So make sure you either select a stripe or mirror. Only then you'll be able to format the data store with the VMFS file system. So I make the selection as stripe because this is a lab environment, so I'm not worried about losing the data. But if you want, for redundancy, you can select mirror as your choice. So once I select that, I can see the estimated raw capacity for my this pool of devices. Disk is 2.92 gigabytes, or almost 3 terabytes. So once I do that, I can click on force because it is giving us a warning that we are clicking the stripe uh, pool. So it is giving us a warning. So in order to bypass this warning, we can click on force. It again asks us to confirm if we are sure. We can click on confirm and continue. Once we click on confirm and continue, we can click on create, and it will again warn us. And this time, once we click confirm and click on create pool, it starts to create the pool. So we have to wait till the pool is created. We can see that the pool is created with the available capacity of 2.82 terabytes. Once the pool is created, we can now create smaller volumes or LUNs that we need to present to our VMware or vSphere device, VMware vSphere environment. So I'm going to click on these 3 dots and click on add zpool. Once I click on add zpool, we can give it a name. So I'm giving it a name as LUN0. The comment also, I mentioned LUN0. I give it a size of 100 gigabytes, and for the rest of the settings I'm leaving them to their default. So I click on submit. Once I click on submit, I can see that the ZVol device LUN0 has been created. For demonstration purpose, I'm going to create another LUN, another ZVol with the LUN1 name. So LUN1, command LUN1, size 100 GB, and rest of the thing to default. So I click on submit. Once I click on submit, I can see that now right now I have two Z roles with the name as LUN0 and LUN1. So once we are done with creating pool and the ZWall devices, we can now move ahead and go to the sharing section where we find the block share option to create iSCSI block share. I click on that. You can see that I am presented with the target screen, target global configuration. So I defined this IQN number global configuration to suit my domain name and my TrueNAS device. You can construct your own IQN for global configuration. Once you're done with that, you can click on save. Once you click on save, you're presented with the enable service. So once we click on that, it's going to enable the iSCSI service and set it to automatically run, as you can see. So once it is done, we can move ahead to the portal tab. Once we, on the portal tab, we click on add. We click on add and we give it a name. So I'm giving it a name of portal 0. And since we do not plan to configure an authentication method or group, we are leaving it to none and moving to the IP address setting. We click on IP address. We have two choices. One is the default IP address that we have 10 given to our TrueNAS device, that is 10.1.1.16. But I'm going to make the selection as 0.0.0.0 because that's kind of wildcard for this particular TrueNAS device. So if it has multiple IP addresses, it can be accessed on any IP address that might be configured. So once I made that selection and I leave the default port for iSCSI at 3260 and click on submit. So once the portal is created, we can now move to the initiator group. Once we move to the initiator group, we need to click on add and we need to click on all initiators. If we know initiators, we can add the initiator, but I want this device, this TrueNAS device, to be accessible from any initiator in my environment because it's a lab. So I just click on all initiators, provide a description as initiators 0, and I click on save. So initiators are configured. Right now, I'm on authorized access tab. As we discussed, not planning for any authentication method. It's like CHAP or MS CHAP. So I'm not going to configure this. And I move to the next tab, which is targets. So on the target tab, I click on add again, and I provide the name for my target because this target is going to have access to LUN0. So I'm giving it a name as target 0 as per my naming convention. I mentioned the alias as target 0. I provided the portal ID that we created in the previous step. I give it the initiator that we created. And because we do not have any authentication method set, we are clicking on submit on these targets. Because we have two learn that we wanted to be presented to our VMware or E6i environment, I'm going to create another target with the name target1. So I'm creating one with the name target1, selecting the same portal ID that we created, same initiator group, and none for the authentication method. Once I've created my two targets, now I move to the next tab, which is extent. Extent is the actual device that are going to be presented, the actual iSCSI disks that are going to be presented to vSphere environment. So I click on add. Once I click on add, I can give it a name, extent 0, and this is associated with target 0, so I'm making it extent 0 target 0. And in the extent type, I'm making the selection as device. Make sure that you select device and select the ZWall that you created in the previous steps. Once you select the LUN, you can click on submit. You need to create another extent because we have two LUN that we wanted to be presented. So I'm creating another one, extent 1 with the target 1. So I'm giving it a description, same description, making the choice is device for the extend type and providing it the zero LUN that we created in earlier steps. Click on submit. So we now have two extents, and at the final step, the final tab, associated targets, we now need to define our associated targets. Click on add, select the target that we defined in the previous step. We can provide it a LUN ID. So because this is target 0, so I'm giving it LUN ID as 0 and extent ID as extent 0. So that's done. And because I have two LUNs, so I'm again going to create an associated target by clicking on add. So select target 1, LUN ID is 1, and target extent as 1. So right now I'm done. On the TrueNAS screen, I need to make sure that my iSCSI service is running, as you can see here, and it's set to start automatically when the TrueNAS device start. So it is configured appropriately. Now I need to move ahead and go to my vSphere environment where I want these iSCSI share to be available as data stores. So once I'm there, if I'm not already added the iSCSI adapter, I can click on add software adapter and add the iSCSI adapter. Once you click on that, it gives you an option because I've already added the iSCSI adapter. That's why it is giving me an option to add software fiber channel over Ethernet adapter, which I don't want. So because I've already added the adapter, I select the iSCSI adapter and go to the dynamic discovery tab. As we know that the IP address of a TrueNAS device is 10.1.1.15, so sorry, 16. So we are mentioning the IP address here and the dynamic discovery tab, and click on OK. Once we do that, we are presented with a warning sign that there has been changes on the software adapter, and we need to run the rescan of the adapter. Once we run the rescan of the adapter, we can now, if our configuration are successful, we can go to the devices tab and see if we are presented with the LUN. Yep, we are presented with the LUN on the TrueNAS device. But as you can see it out right now, it says it is not consumed. So that means we need to format these two LUNs from the iSCSI, TrueNAS iSCSI block share with VMFS file system. So in order to do that, we need to click on the iESXi server to which we have it connected right now. We need to right click on it, go to storage and click on new store. Once we click on new store, we are given an option to select the file system. So I'm selecting VMFS as the file system for iSCSI Datastore. Click on next, and now it's asking us to give it a name. So I follow the naming convention as Datastore 0 TrueNAS, because my TrueNAS device is 2, and because I'm going to format LUN 0, so I'm giving it at LUN 0. I'm copying it from my other LUN formatting. So I select the LUN that I need to format with the VMFS file system and clicking on next. Once I click on next, it gives me an option to select the version for the file system. So I'm selecting the latest version, VMFS 6, and click on next. Once I click on next, if I want, I can give it 50 GB or 100 GB, but right now I'm going to give it the entire size that is available on my LUN. So I define the size as 100 GB and click on next. Once I click on next, I'm presented with the option to review and then click on finish. Once I click on finish, if my configuration is successful, I should see that it's been formatted successfully with the VMFS file system. As we can see, we have the data store now available. So I'm going to perform the same step for the other LUN that we created on the TrueNAS. So let me do that quickly. Storage, new storage, VMFS. I'm going through it quickly because I've already shown it in the previous step. TrueNAS 02, LUN 1. I select it, click on next, take all the size that we have and click on finish. So once we are done, you can see that now we have the data stores available from our TrueNAS device, which can be used to create the virtual machine on these particular data stores. Uh, I just want to add one more thing here that we created a pool of on TrueNAS device for say about 3 terabyte. Suppose in future we run out of the uh, disk space and we need to add another drive of say 600 GB or 1 terabyte to our existing pool. So how we can do that? How we can achieve that? So in order to do that, we need to click on the pool on this gear icon, and then we need to click on add vdevs. Once we click on add vdevs, we are presented with the same screen as pool manager, but right now you cannot modify the name because you're modifying the existing vdevs. So I again make a selection over here so that I can see my disk, and then I select the disk that I want to add to my existing data vdev. So I make the selection. I want to add the 600 GB disk to my current vdev, and I click on this right arrow. Once I click on that, I can see now that uh, the disk is added. So I can go ahead and click on force. Once I click on force, it asks me to confirm it again because this is a striped data set. So we can click on continue. Once I click on continue, I again need to click on add vdevs and then click on confirm and add vdevs. Once we click on add vdevs, we can now see that the capacity of our iSCSI share is now 3 terabyte, 3.19 terabytes. So the new disk has been added to our pool and the pool capacity has now increased. Now we come to a place where suppose right now our LUNs are configured with 100 gigabytes of space, but we are creating virtual machines and we're storing data, and now we are running out of space on this LUN. But as we can see right now, we have enough space in our pool. So I just want to expand the size of this particular pool from say LUN of LUN 1 to from 100 gigabytes to 200 gigabytes. So that's really easy if you are working on TrueNAS. So you all you need to do is to click on these three ellipses on the device to which you want to expand the size on. Click on this, add it on Z wall, and just modify the size here. So right now you can see it is configured at 100 gigabytes. So I'm making it as say 400 gigabytes. So I select the 400 gigabyte, or say I make it 500 gigabytes now, and click on save. As you can see, the size is increased here, but is it reflecting in our vSphere device? Because this LUN is currently in use by the vSphere. So once I come here and I see, yep, this is reflected, but though it is reflected over here, but is it is the size really 500 GB? Can I use right now use all the 500 gigabytes on this data store? So in order to check that, we need to actually go to the data store, click on the data store. So we click on the data store LUN2. It is LUN2 on TrueNAS 2 device. Sorry, LUN1. My bad. So I select the LUN1 on my data store device, go to configure, and once I click on device packing, you can see that the data store size, the capacity of the data store is still shown as 100 gigabytes. But if you see the backing device detail, the the device in the back end has 500 gigabytes of space. So that means right now the data store is configured with 100 gigabytes of capacity only, but the device that is attached in the background has more space on it. So in case I want to utilize this entire space of 500 gigabytes, I can go ahead and expand the size of my data store by uh, clicking on the data store to which I want to extend. I right click on it and then choose the option increase data store capacity. Once I click on that, It shows me the capacity and the LUN ID. Once I make sure that I've made the correct selection, I click on next. Once I click on next, you can see that now it is ready to add another 400 gigabytes to the currently uh, current 100 gigabytes of space that is there. So I'm taking all the 400 gigabytes to add to my current data store and clicking on next. Once I click on next, I can see that once I increase the size of this data store, it will be of around 500 gigabytes. So I click on finish, and now if I see, you can see the capacity of the data store has increased, and the capacity of it matches the capacity of the backing device. So now you can use an entire data store that has a capacity of 500 gigabytes. So it's really amazing to see that how easy it is to increase the capacity of your data store if you have enough space on your TrueNAS device, and how easy it is to configure the block share or iSCSI block share using your FreeNAS or TrueNAS device for your lab environment so that you can practice on it as much as you want. So this was all for today. If you think that this video has provided you some value, so please like my video, and if you think it's really useful, so please go ahead and share with your friends who are in technical field, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. You have a great day. Bye bye.